Have you ever felt that a loss completely throws you off balance? Whether it's the loss of a loved one, an opportunity, or even your health, such moments can leave us directionless. But what if there is a way to accept these losses with clarity and calmness? Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers us powerful tools to overcome the inevitable changes in life. In this video, I will present to you 11 Stoic teachings that will help you develop acceptance of any loss, strengthen your mind, and find peace in the midst of adversity. Teaching 1. When the material disappears. Imagine waking up one day to find that everything material you have worked hard to accumulate has vanished. It could be the aftermath of a robbery or the loss of a job. Everything changes, and the feeling of emptiness can be overwhelming. How would you react in such a situation? The first thing we experience when confronted with material loss is disorientation. It might be a car that gives you freedom, or a home that symbolizes stability. It doesn't matter what the item is. It hurts to lose something we are emotionally connected to. But have you ever asked yourself why this causes us so much pain? A Stoic philosopher once said that the rich are not those who possess much, but those who need little. This means that material things should not define us. When we lose something, we do not lose our essence. Who we are is much more than any possession. Take a moment to think. What material things do you consider essential for your happiness? Stoicism encourages us to reflect on our true needs. Material losses give us a chance to discover who we are without these possessions. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor and philosopher, said, "Remember, what matters is not what you have, but how you perceive it." It can be painful, but it can also be a signal to reevaluate our priorities. When we face loss, it's natural to feel disappointment or even anger. But Stoics teach us that the only thing truly under our control is our relationship to events. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoics, said that we are troubled not by events themselves, but by our interpretations of those events. This means that while you cannot change what happened in those relationships, you can decide how to react. Pain is inevitable, but prolonged suffering can be a choice. Instead of getting stuck in what-if questions or grievances, Stoicism invites us to focus on what we can control, our healing and growth. What if you began to see yourself as a person who learns from this experience, rather than as someone defeated by it? Stoics often reflected on how fragile everything they have is, not out of fear, but to be prepared for inevitable losses. Teaching 2. A broken heart, a strong mind. We have all experienced it, right? A broken heart causes deep pain, whether from a sudden breakup or a relationship that simply didn't work out. The resulting emptiness can be devastating. But what if I told you that Stoicism can offer a way to cope with this pain? A broken heart, like any loss, reminds us that we cannot control everything. Stoics believe that the only thing we can truly control is our relationships and our reactions. Epictetus said that we are troubled not by events themselves, but by our interpretation of those events. This means that while you cannot change what happened in these relationships, you can decide how to respond to it. The pain is unavoidable, but prolonged suffering can be a choice. Instead of getting stuck in what-if questions or grievances, Stoicism invites us to focus on what we can control, our healing and growth. What if you decided not to see illness as an enemy, but as an opportunity to strengthen your inner core? Philosophy invites us to stop resisting the inevitable and accept what we cannot change. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors of Rome and a devoted Stoic, wrote about his own experiences of physical suffering. He faced illness, understanding that while it could be unpleasant, it could also become a catalyst for personal growth. Instead of focusing on what you've lost, focus on what you still have. Stoicism teaches us to separate what is under our control from what is not. Illness often lies beyond our control, but we can control how we choose to live through this process. Will you focus on the pain and disappointment, or will you find ways to express gratitude for the little things? Seneca said that sometimes even life is an act of courage, and this is true because in the darkest days, simply getting up and moving on is an act of resilience. Teaching 3. A weak body, a strong mind. Confronting illness, whether chronic, severe, or unexpected, is one of the greatest tests a person can face. When the body lets us down, our mind and spirit often begin to waver as well. We may feel helpless, but how can we find strength amid this vulnerability? Stoics understood physical suffering. Epictetus, who lived with a disability, said that it's important not to focus on what happens to you, but on how you relate to it. This is the key to Stoic resilience in the face of illness. While we cannot control physical ailments, we can control our attitude towards them. What if you chose not to view illness as an enemy, but as an opportunity to strengthen your inner core? Philosophy invites us to stop resisting the inevitable and accept what we cannot change. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors of Rome and a devoted Stoic, wrote about his own experiences of physical suffering. He faced illness, understanding that while it could be unpleasant, it could also become a catalyst for personal growth. Instead of focusing on what you've lost, focus on what you still have. Stoicism teaches us to separate what is under our control from what is not. Illness often lies beyond our control, but we can control how we choose to live through this process. Will you focus on the pain and disappointment, or will you find ways to express gratitude for the little things? Seneca said that sometimes even life is an act of courage, and this is true because in the darkest days, simply getting up and moving on is an act of resilience. Teaching 4. Acceptance of the inevitable. Undoubtedly, one of the most heartbreaking moments we face as human beings is loss. The grief and the feeling that a part of you has gone is a deeply painful experience. But how can we find the strength to move forward after such a significant loss? Stoicism offers profound and compassionate guidance. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest representatives of Stoicism, experienced the loss of several of his children throughout his life. Despite his pain, he wrote, "Everything we love understanding that it is temporary." While this may sound harsh, it is a truth that Stoics repeated. Nothing in life, not even our loved ones, is permanent. This wisdom can be especially important when loss is so fresh and the pain so real. First, Stoics teach us to accept the inevitable. Death is a part of life, and while it is painful, we cannot control it or avoid it. Epictetus said, "Do not say that I lost something, rather say, I returned it." This shift in perception is not meant to diminish the pain, but to help us understand that all of us are here for a limited time. When we love, we do so knowing that this love will not be eternal in its physical form. What if, instead of focusing on the loss, you could channel your energy into gratitude for the moments you shared with that person? Stoicism invites us to remember that the pain of loss is a reflection of the depth of our love, but we can turn that pain into a deeper recognition of what that person meant in our lives. Teaching 5. Managing emotions. Another important principle of Stoicism is the focus on what we can control. We cannot change what happened. We cannot bring back the person we lost, but we can control how we choose to remember them. How do we honor their memory? Perhaps through the good deeds they valued, or by continuing their legacy. Seneca said, "Live as if you must return everything you love, because therein lies the true essence of existence. Live every moment, using it wisely." These teachings help us to remember that even in the darkest times, we have the ability to choose our path. Accepting loss is not about forgetting, but about creating space for growth. Resilience is not just the ability to endure pain, it is the ability to transform it into wisdom that strengthens our spirit. Conclusion. In conclusion, by turning to these Stoic teachings, we can find a powerful way to accept losses. Stoicism reminds us that everything we have is temporary and teaches us to let go of what is leaving. May these lessons help you strengthen your spirit and remind you that every moment of our lives is precious, even when it is filled with suffering. We can become stronger and wiser through what we go through, and that is what makes us who we are.